Welcome to the Spiritual Connection Podcast. I am your host, Jill. In this podcast, we're going to be talking about your energy, their energy, manifesting, mindset, creating high vibrational healing for you, body work, the importance of massage and self-care, and much, much more. Let's get rolling. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Om Shanti Healing Podcast, The Spiritual Connection. I have on my dear friend and healer, Meghan Beecher, from our local community. Want to say hello?
Yes, hello, welcome. I'm so happy to be here and to reconnect with you, Jill. What a wonderful, wonderful surprise.
Yes. So a little backstory on Meghan and I. We had met long time ago. I think you said level 3 healing touch training.
Yeah, I think it was,
Which
it's got to be close to like 10 years, is what I'm
at,
thinking.
at least,
Yeah.
yeah. And I remember you there in the class, and we had chatted. And so what had happened was my previous guest, Rhea, that was on 2 episodes ago, knows Meghan and got us reconnected. So that was really, really just great. The more healers that we are together and connected and commune, the better, the higher the
Well, and I just
vibration.
always think that those synchronicities, those coincidences that we kind of brush off, um, it always makes me wonder, like, oh, okay, we're reconnecting. What does the universe have in store for us? So I'm game. I'm up for connecting and just enjoy. So happy to be
Yeah.
here.
Yeah, I am so grateful that I got reconnected with you and met you again. And I've already booked an appointment for your quantum hypnosis. And
Yep.
I'm super stoked for that. So let's backtrack. I want you guys to learn a bit about Meghan. And her website, by the way, is languageoflighthealing.com. So you can go on there and take a peek at all of her offerings and read a little bit about her. To give you a little bit of a backstory, she is a holistic healer, intuitive channeler, shamanic journey worker, and quantum hypnosis. So and energy medicine yoga. So many
Yep.
gifts. Awesome. So, Meghan, I want you to tell the listeners, let's learn a little bit about you. Okay.
Sure.
So, share your story of where you were at before you moved to the West and what brought you here.
So for me, I this has been a part of my life for a long time. I grew up mainly outside Chicago, in a suburb of Chicago, and I loved reading. I was a voracious reader, and I remember clearly my mom got me this book series. Like once a month, I would get a new book, and I just couldn't get enough of it. I mean, it was books on the Bermuda Triangle, on the lost continent of Atlantis, the Great Pyramid, Queen Nefertiti, all of these kind of paranormal and out there experiences, UFOs, all of that stuff. And when I look back, I really, even as a child, I was having experiences, definitely seeing ghosts in a way and connections with those who have transitioned, and not understanding it at all at that time. I really kind of felt like it was my imagination in some ways. And then when I was 18, I had a very significant experience. My grandfather, who I just adored, passed, and he visited me, and it was so clear. And I was in that kind of half awake, half asleep state, which we'll get into when we talk about the quantum hypnosis, that theta state, which is a very, very powerful state. Um, and I woke up like more fully from it and was like, whoa, what just happened? And literally within like 10 minutes, my mom called and said that my grandfather had passed away. And he was sick, but I didn't know that he was like on death's door at that time. And so that really made me wonder what just happened and all of that. And so I've been kind of open to all of this stuff for a long time. And then kind of fast forward in life, went to college, met my now husband there, uh, ended up out in Oregon to do an internship for my degree, my bachelor's degree in therapeutic recreation. And while I was out there, there was this little herbal co-op, and they offered a very intensive herbal certification course. And I decided while I was out there for my internship to do that. And that really cemented really taking care of myself and then eventually my family when I had kids, as naturally as possible, using herbs, homeopathic medicine, that sort of stuff. And that really was the beginning of the path of finding energy healing. Um, so to bring me to the West, I mean, we were out West, but to bring me here to Colorado, my husband had done a summer as a camp counselor at the YMCA of the Rockies. And so he got to know the Fort Collins area, Estes Park, and just loved it. And we'd been out in Oregon for a couple years, and I was really missing my family. It felt really far from them. I mean, you're talking probably close to 40 hours of a drive to get there. And so he was like, we should go and we should go check out this area. I think you'll like it. So he had a 71 Volkswagen bus that we lived out of at times. You know, we would go tour this band Fish that we loved for like weeks at a time and just live out of we definitely were living the bohemian kind of hippie life. And so we packed up the Volkswagen and we came on out here for a couple weeks, and I loved it. Fell in love, and I was like, all right, let's do it. So we moved out here, and that's how I got rooted here in the Fort Collins, Loveland area. And, definitely a good place to be.
It's so great here. So backtracking real quick, I grew up in Chicago.
Really?
Where did you grow up? Yeah.
I grew up in Naperville.
Oh my God, I grew up in Geneva.
Really?
Yes.
Wow. That's crazy. Our
We're like
hair
ships
color is
in the
kind of the
night,
same
girlfriend.
too. You know, like
Oh my God. The universe is like, you guys need to hang out. Yeah,
totally.
we used to cruise the strip downtown Naperville for guys until my girlfriend's car
Oh
overheated,
yeah.
like
The
every
river walk.
summer.
The river walk.
The
Oh
river
yeah.
walk.
Really slow because man, that
Yeah,
traffic would back up.
right. And it would be like 90 degrees out, and we would have the heater blasting so her car wouldn't blow up. It was like smoking and it was not good. She had a Chrysler LeBaron, POS, but we were cruising for dudes. Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh
The
my
Naperville
God, that
River
is
Walk.
crazy. How cool.
That
Yeah,
is
that's good stuff.
amazing.
It's definitely better out here than Chicago, than
Oh
Illinois,
my
that's for
God.
sure.
Doesn't even compare. The highest place where I lived was the landfill.
Oh, well, we had a landfill not too far from us, and they kept talking about maybe they'd make it into a ski hill. And I'm like, oh, that'd be amazing to make it into a ski hill, but they never did it.
So you went to Estes Park? Did you check out the Stanley Hotel when you were there?
Oh yeah. Oh,
Did you do the
definitely.
ghost tour?
We didn't do the ghost tour, but we definitely checked out the Stanley. There's some interesting energy in that place.
The Shining was filmed there.
I know. I
And
know.
that
It's
was, I
so
think, probably in the 70s or 80s too. Tell the listeners about the place you worked.
so my internship that I did for my bachelor's degree in Oregon was in Salem, Oregon at the state hospital. It was a psychiatric hospital. And they filmed One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest there. And that was pretty, because I had seen that. I had done a film class in college, some of those, I don't know, those humanities or whatever, those credits you got to get. So it's like, what am I going to do? Oh, I'll take this intro to film class. And they did a whole thing on One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest because it was a pretty significant film, I think, when it came out. And oh yeah, so I worked there with, I mean, and the place or the little department that I worked. I mean, it's separated into these buildings. And the building I worked in, I mean, you had to be like buzzed through like at least two gates. And then to get to the floor I worked on, you had to be buzzed in through that. I mean, it was just even energetically going through those barriers, you could call them, was a little disconcerting. But I mean, I was working with, it was all males, adult males who had committed a crime and like were deemed insane. And so it was yeah, it was quite an
Oh,
experience there. But I mean, I would take those guys down to the pool where Jack Nicholson was filmed, swimming in, and it was just kind of interesting. That whole like Nurse Ratched. I mean, there's definitely energy in that place, and I think sometimes what happens too, because these some of these people had worked there forever, because the state of Oregon has some of the best retirement benefits ever. I mean, they would talk about that it was like almost on par with like countries like Sweden, where you are taken care of. And so if you worked there long enough for the state, you could retire, and be totally taken care of. And so some of those people had been there for a long time because they wanted, they were kind of bought in and they wanted to get those benefits. But it's almost like the energy of the place starts to wear off on you a little bit, I mean, when you're constantly working with, you know, people who are really in psychosis, um, I think it's hard sometimes to keep yourself really centered and grounded. I had a nurse tell me there, though. This nurse worked there, and because I was like 22, walking in there, and she said to me that she visualized herself as a deer when she came in there, that she visualized herself as a deer where she could just kind of camouflage into the environment so that she wasn't really noticed in some way. And that really stuck with me. It made me realize that you definitely, I mean, I started doing a lot of like energetic protective stuff without even really knowing what I was doing before I would go in there. They thought I was crazy for leaving because I was so young getting in, and why would you want to leave? And I was like, whoa, it's a lot. I mean, when you are energetically sensitive, when you are
mm.
an empath and you are energetically sensitive, that type of place is just not a good work environment for you because there is so much coming at you and
Wow.
you start to really feel pretty frazzled.
Yeah, I can imagine so for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
You know,
So
and
when
it's
you worked there, did you see, because people I'm sure had passed over the
well,
years.
you know,
Did you see anything
well, I
walking down the
definitely,
hallway?
what happens is, and I'm sure some of your listeners have had this experience where, especially out of the peripheral view,
Yeah.
when you can soften your gaze, where you're not so focused on something, and you can kind of like then open up that peripheral view. It's almost, I in one of my courses recently, she talked about this wide angle vision is kind of what it is. So you kind of open up that like wide angle vision on the side. Um, you can definitely see stuff, I mean, you'll see like shadowy kind of figures kind of going, and then you turn your head and they're gone because now
Mm.
you've put your full attention onto it. Um, and so there was a lot of that. There was a lot of, um, I hate to use the word like dark energy, but it's chaotic energy. It's energy that's not organized. It's energy that's kind of lost. It doesn't know where to go. And it's looking, these type of energies that were there, especially in the state hospital, were energies that are looking for an anchor. They're looking to anchor onto someone or onto something because it's just they're out there. They don't know what they're doing. It's very chaotic. And that's a tough place to be. I mean, I don't even know what you would do to clear a place like that,
Mm.
to be honest, because you're talking decades and decades and decades of a lot of pain. And yeah, it was definitely, I did 2 years, worked 2 years there, and I was grateful for the opportunity, but it definitely, I was ready to move on.
Yeah. Yeah. You're amazing for even filling out an application to go walk into a facility like that. I would be terrified.
I don't
In
think I really understood what I was getting into. I had to like one of the places I did apply was for the adaptive recreation program, the city of Boulder, and I was picked. Like there was three people that applied, and I was the one that was picked for it. But they didn't get the information they needed to supply to my university, they did not get that information to them to like clarify the internship I would be doing. And so I had to go somewhere else. My friend had just been out there. She worked in like the young adult section of the state hospital. And I uh I was like, okay, I'll go there, you know. I mean, I'd never been out to Oregon. It was an opportunity to go out west and, you know, I was young and let's go check this place out and stuff, but I don't think I fully understood like what I got was getting into.
Yeah. Yeah. That's powerful. What an amazing story. What an amazing adventure you went on. Holy cow.
Yeah,
Gosh.
really.
So you had mentioned to me that you found healing touch through your mom. Now, for the listeners that don't know, healing touch is an energy medicine. A lot of people, when they talk about energy with me, they use the umbrella term of Reiki. Reiki and healing touch are different. There's different
Yes.
philosophies and different techniques and things of that nature, but the intention behind Reiki and healing touch are the same. So you had mentioned to me that your mom, what a beautiful thing for mom to introduce you to healing touch. So can you tell us the story around what inspired you to learn more about that?
Sure. So my mom was a massage therapist. She became a massage therapist kind of later in life. Um, Uh, and and then through there, I think she did some levels of Reiki and things like that. But somehow I don't even know really how she discovered healing touch, but she got connected with a woman in the Chicago area who was doing healing touch and and a woman who was definitely, I mean, she was, you know, psychic and there was a lot of stuff that she brought to it more than even just healing touch. But and so she'd been seeing this woman. My dad at the time was going through, well, no, he had already passed by this time, but he was going through cancer treatment. He went and saw this healer of my mom's a couple times too to help with him. And I I had a well, I've had several miscarriages. I kind of I've had a miscarriage before like each child that was born, and I have four kids. And after my second child, I got pregnant, and we discovered that the heartbeat has stopped. I was maybe about 13 weeks into the pregnancy, and because I want to do things more naturally and holistically, I decided, and my midwife was supportive of it. I decided that I was going to pass it on my own, and so I definitely supported my body during that process. But when it really started, it got out of hand, and it was a pretty traumatic experience for me. I did end up going to the ER. I did have to get a blood transfusion. So I don't necessarily recommend for people, you know, to do that on their own. I had kind of, you know, I had definitely done it before and it was fine. This one just wasn't okay. And so I was like, this happened right before literally I was going to be going back to Chicago area to see my mom. And so I decided to still go back. We went back as a family. And while I was back there, my mom gifted me a session with this woman who does healing touch. And it was a really powerful and beautiful session. I just remember sobbing and sobbing and sobbing, and it wasn't just tears coming out. It was like I was definitely crying out the pain and crying out the you know, when you're put into an emergency situation where, you know, maybe your physical well-being is at risk, you know, that adrenaline gets pumping. It definitely traumatically kind of imprints in your energetic field. And so that's kind of what I was clearing out was a lot of the panic that I felt and that had kind of imprinted. Um, and so it was so powerful when I came back to Fort Collins. I was like, I got to find someone who's doing this. I need to find an energy healer. And I did. That's when I found Lori Pointer, who's amazing. And I started seeing her and then decided, you know what? Like, I can sense energy. I mean, I was feeling stuff. I mean, I was definitely my psychic experiences that I had. I'm like, I want to do this. And so she was a mentor for me. So I took the first 3 levels with her, and the rest is history, from
Oh,
there.
beautiful, beautiful. And you have a light around you that is so inviting and warm and cozy, just saying.
Oh, thank
You
you.
are very approachable and kind and sweet, and you are the perfect vibration for doing healing work, in my opinion. So
Well, thank
that
you.
feels
That
really
means
good.
a
I'm really
lot.
excited to meet with you and do the quantum hypnosis. Let's talk about that next.
Yes, definitely. So, um, you know, I got trained. I'm trained in several different modalities. I'm trained in a form of Reiki called angelic Reiki. That's really beautiful too. Um, and then I've explored like shamanic work, which really filled some holes in for me. What happened with me with healing touch is that um, I started having so many third eye experiences when I worked on people. And I mean, there were symbols that would rise up and words that would come to me. And even like, it'd be like whole like little like I'm watching a film, and realizing then like, whoa, this is a past life thing that has just risen up through these layers of energy that I'm working on, and trying to understand what I was really seeing, how to process that, and how do I tell people, that was a big thing even of what I was seeing. And so I needed to go beyond healing touch, because healing touch, it just, they did not have the tools for what I was experiencing. And so just started looking out there in different modalities, reading a lot of books, and came across Dolores Cannon, she's a really fun lady. She's passed now, but she has written so many books out there of kind of compiling all of these different sessions that she's held for people, and the information that's come out of it. It's really fascinating. I highly recommend any of her books. But she was a woman. She started doing hypnosis like back in the 60s, learning hypnosis. Her husband was in the military, and they were on a military base, and they kind of started doing it, help people quit smoking. I mean, that was a lot of what hypnosis was used back in the day. I mean, it was like how to lose weight, how to quit smoking, um, all of that kind of stuff. And I
Hmm.
think she kind of started doing it thinking like maybe it would help with like PTSD, like some of these guys in the military, the experiences that they had had. So she was did I don't know if she was doing a session for, I think, um a wife or something of someone, of a husband that was in the military that they knew. And all of a sudden this woman started recounting this what seemed to be a past life. And she didn't really have tools for that at first, so I mean, she really kind of developed and developed and developed, fine-tuned her script that she used, really expanded, opened up what she kind of understood about uh, past lives, and how past lives and information that comes out of that, how it affects and clears things out that are happening now. Um, and so she developed quantum hypnosis healing technique. And so I decided, I was like, you know what, I got to do this training, because there's something here. And I got to tell you, I did the training without even having had a session done on myself, like before I did the training. I just knew, I was like, I want to do this. And so I did the training, started working on some friends, having just incredible experiences. Um, you know, the shifts that this work created for them were just really, really beautiful. I mean, really, really beautiful. And then I did end up having my own um, session done, and I did it on Zoom with a woman. She used to live here in Loveland, and she moved to Utah, and she learned directly under Dolores. Dolores had already passed by the time that I was doing the training. And my experience I had was, I still, when I think about it, I just get buzzy all over, and it still is with me. And I think literally I'm still processing some of that out. I mean, it's that powerful of the work. And so what's really, really beautiful about the work is that you're not going in and having someone say, oh, I see this life of you, back in the 1800s, and you worked with horses, and it's not someone telling you what they're seeing. All of it comes from you. So what the healer, is doing, what I do in those sessions is I'm really holding the container. I'm using the very specific script to guide you into a super relaxed state where you feel totally at ease, peaceful, you know that you're supported, just really just creating that container um, where you can go deep, into that channeled state, really. And then we always go back to a life. Um, I say back, but sometimes, time, space, we think of it so we're in these physical, very dense physical form as humans, and so time and space feels dense and physical to us in a way, very linear, and it's not. I mean, when you get into the quantum part, of that, you're tapping into that quantum field, which time and space, you could say that we're going to a past life, but maybe it's a parallel life, or maybe it's a future life, or you know people sometimes go to lives not on earth. I mean, you really kind of suspend everything, um and just allow yourself to go there. But we go into a life where it's the most appropriate for you to see, where there is information for you to get out of that life. And so we repeat that over and over again, because we're really kind of patterning that into the work that we're doing, that you're going to go to the most appropriate time and the most appropriate space where there's information for you to receive. So you go into a past life or a parallel life, or whatever it is, and it's all coming from you. I'm just helping to guide you. I'm asking questions, trying to get as much information as we can, and then helping you move forward um, further into that life, and get as much information as we can, move forward. We do, thought I was going to sneeze there. Sorry. We
Is there
do,
is there clearings when people come up with past lives and say, for example, that there is a past life that is not so pleasant that they
mhm,
see? I had that experience. I don't know if it was quantum hypnosis, but it was like she marketed it as like regressive hypnosis.
mhm,
And I did go into a past life, and it felt very much like medieval times. I was dirty and homeless, and I was hungry, and I had no shoes. And I met my daughter back then, and she had been taken by a witch, and she was going to be used in sacrifice. And she was the daughter. She wasn't my daughter, but I felt this connection. She was abducted by this dark entity, right, that was going to be sacrificing her. And I rescued her from this witch, and I got caught and blamed for abducting the child, and I got hung in the square. And I saw all of this, and I was accused of being a witch. I feel like there has been part of that in me forever, you know, witchy tendencies. Um, but I was taken and hung, and like to this day, I have I have esophageal issues and swallowing and stuff going on with my throat. Now, if that were to come up, do you have methods of like clearing that out to shift that memory, like to end the story in a more positive way? So that trauma isn't still with me. Like, is there, in part of the hypnosis, do we shift the script, the narrative in some way to
yeah, I
do the
mean,
healing?
that's
Or how can you explain like how you do that?
sure. And I mean, that's a really good point, what you bring up. In Dolores Cannon's work, um, so for me, I think the first part of healing anything is the awareness. So when you become aware, I mean, of maybe the root of something, or even when you become aware of of the pain you're holding, in the left side of your hip or something or whatever, right? That starts the healing process right there. So just having awareness, right? Because when you think about it, what you put your attention onto, energy flows to. And I had an interesting experience where I had a woke up, had severe like neck pain, never had that before. And when I was sitting with it, okay, what is this telling me? And I was, breathing, doing some pranayama, all this stuff. And my higher self was like, in the human form, you humans, you want to like right away jump to that pain equals bad, that pain equals wrong. What if pain was just like, what if pain was showing up so that you could put your attention on where that pain is so you could start sending energy to it to heal it? That sometimes we have to shift like what our perspective is of it. And so I think what happens when you have these past lives and you have a life that, maybe something traumatic happens in, that what it does is it can help you kind of shift your perspective on what's going on. Like for you, like you've had maybe throat issues, right, for a while. And then you have this past life regression, you were hung, and it's like, whoa, okay. So there's some energetic imprint there, right? Because we don't, when we, I mean, what I believe when we come into these bodies and these souls, that our soul is made up of all the lives that we've had, and there are little bits and pieces that I think we take more in with us on different lives to clear out in that life, especially if we're going to be having kind of deeper connections with other soul energy that we've had in past lives. And so in the quantum work, we don't necessarily in that moment like start shifting it to see it in a different way. But one thing that we do is we can definitely say, you can experience this, you can see this as an observer so that you can pull yourself out to see a higher perspective of it so that you're not there almost like reliving it. Because I don't think anyone needs to relive their trauma in order to clear it. And so, one thing that does though, when we go through the life, you do go through the death scene, and then you get onto the other side of death, and you always ask, what was the purpose of that life? Like what was the lesson in it? Or I don't know, sometimes I don't like to use that word lesson, that these lives that we're learning lessons, because I really think ultimately it's just about experience. But it's like, what was the purpose of that? So then we do some kind of breaking down of like, having this experience helped her in that life, to be able to experience the flip side of this, or to have a greater understanding of other people of this, whatever it is, so you do kind of do some breaking down of that life. Um, but we don't stay there a whole lot. I think what happens is, in my experience personally with this quantum healing work and others that I have held the space for, what they've talked about, that it's like the days and weeks afterwards. Sometimes you remember more about that life than what came up in that session. And it's just kind of, you're just kind of peeling the layers back, peeling the layers back. And then you find that it's just, you've peeled all the layers back, and what's left is just love. I mean, that it's okay, you can let it go. And then that's when people will see, physical symptoms will disappear and things like that. But what's really beautiful about this work is that the past life, that's almost like a warm up, because after you do the past life regression, what you're really doing is you're connecting with your higher self. And so we bring in the higher self, we connect with your higher self, and then you can ask anything that you want. And if there's a physical healing that you would like to happen, you can ask your higher self to go in and heal you from it. And there's people in Dolores Cannon's work. I mean, there's people who had like on that table or on that couch, in that session had like incredible healings. So it's pretty amazing work. But ultimately, it's just allowing us to connect with that higher divine light of who we really are. And when you do that, um, I don't know. To me, it's like the sky's the limit. You can heal anything.
Yeah, there's so much power in being able to connect into that, into the drop into that vortex space and be like tiny and huge. It feels like that to me, like I'm huge and I'm tiny at the same time. And there's like
Yeah,
this infiniteness around my body where I feel like important, but yet I feel like just like a speck in this darkness of forever. And it's just such a
totally.
comforting, beautiful place to be. And I would love to be there like a lot more than I am, and just feels so comforting. I had an experience that was pretty profound in a deep meditation where I I don't like to talk about religion per se, but I had this moment where I felt very godlike, and I was in the palm of a gigantic glowing hand, and I felt this energy of this being looking down at me, smiling, and I was like a tiny, tiny speck. I was like full grown adult, but I was this tiny, tiny speck in this just gigantic beam of light hand like shooting out, and just it felt so comforting and safe and loving, and I was just being just held and smiled and loved upon, and there was darkness all around from that place. And I just wanted to be right in that space just forever, and just don't let me go back. I just want to hang out right here. And it just felt like infinite unconditional love
Yeah.
and support. And it was an amazing feeling. And that brought on some healing for me for sure. And that, the quantum place
Hmm.
is where I felt I was, you know,
Yes.
into the vortex, right? Where you're up and out and in the space all around. And it's such a beautiful, beautiful place to be. And for the listeners, if you need assistance to get there, call on your local healers, ask some friends if they know anybody, and take the opportunity to try it. Don't don't disregard the power behind energy work and the way it can open things up for you and really helped you to take down the walls, right? It helps to
Yes.
peel back, like you said, peel back those layers, because when we have trauma, we stuff it. And I talk a lot about that with my massage clients that come in with the chronic pain, and I'm doing transformational coaching now with my clients because they come in and they just completely have an emotional breakdown. Like, I don't know what else to do. This pain won't go away. I've been everywhere. And we start to talk about the messaging, that they stuffed inside that pain. Like if you have that back pain, what's in that back pain, right? Tap
Yeah.
into that. There's anger, right? There's resentment in
Yeah.
there. You're pissed at your parents about something or a divorce or whatever the scenario is, and then they stuff and stuff and stuff, and that their area gets tighter and tighter and burny and clenchy, and it just gets so that becomes the norm.
Yeah. Well,
So
you
yeah.
know, we're energetic beings. I mean, everything is energy.
Yes.
Everything is particles vibrating at different frequencies. And what happens, energy wants to move, but energy needs the space to move. And so what happens is it's like it's um, these rivers that are just kind of flowing throughout us. And what happens is the pain then starts to build these dams and clogs that energy up, which slows the flow down and kind of decreases the space inside. And so, going to a healer, going, to have someone that can help kind of start to break that dam up, right? Open up the space, get the energy moving. What happens is when you're in the thick of something, it's hard to hold that healing space for yourself. I truly believe we all are innate healers. We all can heal ourselves, but when you are in the thick of something, it is hard to hold that space for yourself. It's hard to hold that
Yeah.
container to allow
Mhm.
yourself to heal. So that's where then you reach out to people who you resonate with, who can hold that space for you, who can go in there and help to and to gently break it up, right? I mean, you don't, when you bring a dam down, you don't want to bring it down all at once. You're going to have this flooding come through, and we know the destruction even here in Colorado, what can happen, with massive flooding, the damage. So it's like you want to be gentle with yourself. You want to take your time and start to break that dam up nice and easy, allowing those waterways to be able to handle that new flow that's happening. And then you
Yeah.
start to feel a little bit better and a little bit better. And when you start to like stop and allow yourself some stillness, allow yourself some space to really feel into your body and how you're feeling, it's like, oh, you know what? That pain isn't as bad today. Like, or you know what? I just went 2 hours without noticing it. That hasn't happened in days. So allow yourself to notice the shifts that are happening, right? And then you put your attention on that it's getting better. Now you're setting more energy there. And then the acceleration of the healing happens. So
Yeah.
it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
And
And your
yeah,
nervous system responds to that.
yes,
I love your analogy of a river and a dam. That is a really good one, by the way. And letting the energy flow and having it stuck in the trauma or whatever event might have happened that stifled your flow, right? And it could
yeah,
be multiple little events like
yes,
childhood neglect, or
yes,
whatever the scenario it could be. Over the years, you stuff the layers and throw another log on the dam and then throw another log on the dam. And over, 20 years go by and the dam's pretty freaking big and it takes some time to break all that down,
yeah,
and let the nervous system understand that what's happening is safe, right?
yeah,
And it's
totally.
okay to unclench your body and let the dam down slowly, like you said. You don't want to go right in there. It's a process of unraveling, unlayering, and gently letting the mind and the body communicate that what is happening is safe and it's going to heal you and make you feel better, and to open up to letting that messaging out of the body that is keeping you in that clench, right? The years and
Yeah,
years of you're unworthy and your parents saying you're not going to amount to anything, or you know a, a ex-spouse saying it's just your anxiety, you're fine, or just degrading and emotionally neglectful, or whatever the scenario is, you know just letting all of that messaging come to the surface in neutrality, right? To
hmm.
just see it for what it is and not being triggered by it, and then letting it go.
I think
Yeah.
about, I teach one of my favorite forms of yoga is to teach yin yoga, where you hold poses for anywhere from 3 to 5 minutes. And that can be really hard for people. It's a very mindful practice. And I tell people, like, um, it's okay to sit with your discomfort. A lot of times we have this knee jerk reaction of like running away from the pain, stuffing
Right.
it down. It's
Mm-hmm.
okay to sit with that discomfort. And I think that's a beautiful thing. We're seeing a lot of this somatic body work really come to the surface now out there, of really allowing yourself to really feel into what you are feeling. And it makes me think of a client I had not too long ago, and dealing with some stuff. And it was interesting. I saw this like cave inside her, and it was kind of overgrown, brambles, all this. And I thought, huh. And it was in this beautiful forest. And I was like, wow, what's here? And as I'm clearing out her sacral chakra, the cave, like the brambles, the overgrowth cleared out. And the message was like, we all got an inner cave, and you're going to go in, you're going to go into the cave, and you're going to be in the darkness. You're going to have to sit, sometimes in your dark corners to like bring the light there. You're going to have to sit in that discomfort, and then you come out. And then you know what? That cave doesn't go away. You're going to go back in the cave. I mean, it's like it's that spiral, right? If sometimes you have to come back around to stuff, you got to like sit with it again, and then it's that other layer that kind of peels back. And it really, it spoke to me, because sometimes I feel like, man, I feel like I've been in my cave for a long freaking time. When am I coming out? But I do. Sometimes you just peek out and then you go back
Right.
in. It's like
Like
breath of
Groundhog
fresh
Day.
air, and then you got to go back in.
Like, nope, I'm good. I'm gonna
Yeah,
stick around a
I
little longer.
know, I'm like, but then I was like,
I love
oh,
that.
wait a second. This cave is part of me and it's a beautiful part of me. And we do sometimes, not sometimes, we all have to be willing to go in and and face those dark corners, and bring the light to the surface. And I especially think now more than ever, there are big shifts going on globally. And so I think, we've been seeing that, I mean, over the last, especially over the last, 4 or 5 years, just the collective we're like all going in the cave together. It's like, and having to kind of sit with the collective stuff and clear that out. So
Yeah. Yeah. I love the vibration that's elevating. I think there's the polarization though that they speak of, I think is very much true as well. And it's like, what side are you going to pick? Right? Are you
mhm,
going to go into the dark place of hate and blame and shame and rage? Or are you going to evolve and work on your crap and get lighter?
yeah,
Right? And
oh yeah,
sometimes you will have to look at parts of ourselves that we don't like very much,
oh
right?
definitely,
That make us feel weak or incapable, you know,
yeah,
but looking at those parts and not slapping negative names to it. Okay, it's there. What are you going to do with it now? We know that we're judgmental of others, for example. Okay, so that clearly doesn't feel good in your body when you're
yeah,
comparing, right? And comparing is a really low vibration, and judging is a low vibration. So, okay, we know that that's a thing. So, what are you going to do to change that, right? You can stop comparing and you can stop judging. It's as simple as that, right? It's a choice, right?
it
So,
is.
people are going to choose, or if you feel like you're in a place and you're jealous of somebody because they're doing something better than you, there is, no matter what you do, there's going to be somebody that does it better than you, right? Doesn't matter. The thing is that you have to acknowledge in yourself that you do it better than a lot of other people too, and see it that way, and say, oh, these people do it better. I want to learn from them instead of putting hate on them and blame on them.
Yeah. Well, and
Learn from them,
we
right?
we're very habitual creatures, and
Yeah.
so we get very stuck in these patterns of behavior. And again, it's that first step of awareness, of like catching yourself, of like,
Yeah.
oh, wait a second, why am I going here?
That doesn't
um
feel good.
and then shifting it, right? And knowing, though, those patterns, it takes a lot of mindful catching of yourself over a lot of time to help shift those patterns. But then you find you get to the point where then that behavior, those triggers aren't there anymore, because you've been working hard at catching yourself, being mindful in the moment of what you're doing. Where are you putting your energy? Where are you putting your energy, right? And it's like, I don't want to put it here. Shifting where you are, right? That starts to break the old pattern down, start to create the new pattern. And then all of a sudden, before you know it, like, it's an automatic thing. That's who you are now. You've
Right.
created a new pattern. And as I say that, I really think that is exactly what is happening on our planet. I feel like we have old structures that are being broken down, old
Mhm.
patterns that are being broken down, and we have new patterns that we're still trying to build. So we're kind of in this void space. And these void spaces can feel really uncomfortable. There can be a lot of chaos because you have these old structures breaking down and you have these new structures that we're trying to put into place. I mean, that could be a whole nother podcast talking about that, but it's like, um, but I think
So
it's
true.
just allowing ourselves to, yeah, I'll have to come back on. We'll have to talk about what's really going
Yeah,
on
right,
here.
right, right. It brings me to the Michael Jackson song, Man in the Mirror, right? I
Yeah,
love that song. Like, if you don't like what you see, take a look in the mirror and change, right?
yeah,
and we have
Exactly.
to do this as a collective to raise the vibration of
Yes.
the human race, to for everyone to feel better, right?
Yes.
For everyone to live with light and love instead of hate and blame, you
Yeah.
know. And we can definitely talk on that in another podcast for sure. So I love this conversation with you. I wanted to talk to you about your high point. You went through this dark place with your miscarriages. That's traumatizing. And did you that pain? Did you did you have physical pain afterwards, dealing with the emotional component of that?
Well, it's interesting that you say that. I definitely, what I did kind of feel is I did feel like almost like that beginning achiness that sometimes you get like right before you start your menstrual cycle. So I did kind of get a little bit of that. Um, for me, it was a lot of grief that I was holding like in my
Mm-hmm.
heart. So I felt a lot, I felt a heaviness, and it's almost like you don't feel the heaviness until it lightens up. And then you're like, oh, wow, I feel so much lighter. I didn't even realize I was that heavy feeling. That was a big part of it. I think too, because at that point with that miscarriage, my dad had passed away just a year and a half before. And then my younger brother, who I was really close to, had passed away 5 years before that. So I think there was a lot of grief. It was just loss. Yes, the miscarriage itself, going through that was very panicky um and physically like traumatic, but it was also a loss, and I think that kind of stirred the loss, the grief that I was still holding on to from my brother and from my dad. So there was a lot, but I
It
mean, but
stirred it up again. Yeah.
it was again, right? It was another grief is
Yeah.
definitely an interesting thing because I just lost my mom a year ago, and she was, I mean, my best friend, and a very it was hard to lose her from the physical realm here with me. Um, so I'm still grieving, I'm still grieving my brother's loss. I'm still grieving my dad's loss. I'm definitely still in the throes of grieving my mom. But what happens is it really comes in waves. And I think that will happen probably for the rest of my life, that it's just going to come up when it comes up, and I'm going to sit with it. I'm going to
Mm-hmm.
honor it. I'm going to honor it. It's my love for them. So, and my kids know. I'm at a point in my life where I'm unapologetic about grieving. And if I'm cooking dinner and all of a sudden I feel it and I just got to start letting those tears kind of start streaming down my cheeks, I'm gonna. And I'm not gonna hide it. And my kids are like, "Oh, are you missing Nana?" And I'm like, "Yeah, it just kind of came out of the blue. I felt her and I'm missing her and all of that." And then it washes away. And then, you come back to, center and all that. And, you know, so I think that was a lot of it. A lot of after that miscarriage, especially in that first healing session, it was so much more than just the miscarriage that came out.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that
Yeah.
happens. I think people come in for healing sessions because their right knee has been bothering them and they'd like some work on it. And maybe they just went through a divorce and whatever. But then there's more stuff that comes out. You start working on that knee, you feel led, for me, I feel led to go to a certain chakra and start clearing out some of the layers of the chakra. And all of a sudden we got childhood stuff that's up, and stuff. So it's like you just never know.
Yeah, we're complex energy beings, you know. You wrote to me once that you think that our greatest challenges are our greatest transformers. And that line really stood out to me as very much truth. And I really appreciate you saying that because it is true. When we're
Yeah.
faced with the hard stuff, it tests us on whether or not we're going to go to the dark place or the light place, right? It's a
Mhm.
lesson to be learned. There's messages within that story, and we have a choice. Grief happens, it's part of being alive, right?
Yeah.
Where we should expect more of it, as we age and we lose people. but those moments of challenge and transformation really just kind of build us up for our next life, right? I feel like we're all born with kind of some baggage of some past life stuff, perhaps, or we inherited some things from the womb, right? That
Mm-hmm.
we
Oh
carry into
yeah.
this life, and we're like, okay, we've got this pile of stuff, like how are we going to manage this to evolve and get lighter? And why do we do that? What is the point of that, right? To
Yeah.
have a better life, to be closer to source. To
Yeah.
me, it's like I don't want to feel heavy, in a place of blame and anger and non-accountability. I want to feel that I want to ascend upward
Yeah.
where it feels inviting and loving and infinite and safe. Going down doesn't feel that way. Going up does. So for the folks that
Yeah.
are listening, why do all this work? Why tap into that uncomfortableness, right? It's a choice. You don't have to,
Mm-mm.
but if you're curious about not feeling heavy and living in a place of shame and blame and anger and non-accountability, and everything is everybody else's fault and you're just fine, but when really you're not,
Well,
right?
and it's
There's tools
taking
to
it's
help you clear all that
definitely.
crap out and become a kinder, gentler, more loving, more giving, more lighter, more inviting soul. And when you do that, your life will change. If you stay in the heavy, dark, anger, blame, you're going to attract those kinds of people and those kinds of circumstances into your life. And it's just going to be a downward spiral, right? And you're going to have a harder and harder time digging yourself out of that. But if you make the other choice to do the work and get a little uncomfortable, to clear your layers back and be lighter and lighter and lighter and be closer to source, then your life will change. The people that that are heavy will drop off and you will pull in other people that are also working on themselves and wanting a better, lighter life, right? So it is a choice, but we accentuate the positive, right? And we
Hmm.
try to be that tool for people to have where they have resource, right? Where if they're lost and they don't really know what first move to make, reach out to a healer, reach out
Yeah.
to a Reiki or an energy worker, healing touch worker, massage therapist, hypnotism,
Hmm.
or take some meditation classes is a really great way to start, or do some on YouTube or whatever, right? Meditation is huge for getting into that space where there's potential lightness that can occur, right? And if you're new at it, it's just a matter of sitting and focusing on your breathing.
Yeah.
A lot of people think meditation needs to be, my mind is shut off completely. And like, no, you're conscious. Your mind
Yeah.
is not going to be shut off. And even when you're
Exactly.
unconscious, your mind is still active,
Yeah.
right? There's no shutting it off. We're analytical beings, we're always thinking. But to be able to just be in a moment of stillness and let your
Yeah.
body and your brain kind of talk to each other is a good first step, right?
Yeah. Stillness really, there's stillness is a very, very powerful tool. Because I think a lot of us, we're not listening to our bodies until it's screaming at us in pain. We're not, we're getting messages all the time from our body, from our environment, in nature, people who have passed. Like you're getting messages, but you're not paying attention because you're not allowing yourself those moments of stillness to get quiet. We're constantly running around, all these errands, all these things we have to do. We have to work, we have to do this, that, and then you're crashing in bed at night because you're exhausted. So it's like where during the day have you stopped to, I love to look at the clouds. I always get messages from the clouds. I'll start to see different shapes of animals or different things like that, or just even, feel the wind on my face, or just stop. You just need to stop, even if it's for 30 seconds or 1 minute, if you can do it. and allow
Right.
yourself to get quiet.
Right. And you can ground yourself well that way too. Just giving yourself just a 5 minutes, or even if you feel like you can't stop moving at all, when you are moving, pay attention to each step.
Yeah.
Stop and hug a tree, right?
Yep.
Or acknowledge the beauty of a flower, and just pay attention to the colors around you and the things that are beautiful. And that helps you to get a little bit lighter.
Yep.
If you're focusing on the dirt on the sidewalk and the traffic and the smell and, of gasoline or whatever, that's low vibration. You want to stay in a place of positive and looking at the positive and feeling the positive and acknowledging the things that feel lighter and more
Yep.
joyful, right? So I would love for you to talk about your up and coming course and share a little bit about that to the
Yeah.
listeners for future reference.
Yeah, definitely. So
In the works.
my dear friend Elizabeth and we have been, I mean, you talk about meditation. We've been doing meditation for decades, and so we have uh, come together, and we have been. I guess you could. I mean, you could call it meditation. You can call it praying. You could call it visualizing. But what we've been doing is coming together and channeling together. So we've been kind of coming together, opening ourselves up to receive guidance from the subtle realms, from the subtle energy around us, and um, different ascended masters have come in, goddesses. Definitely, we're connecting through our higher self, which is that most divine aspect of who we are. Um, as the bridge. So our higher self is kind of the bridge between us and um, the higher frequency energy beings who have messages to give us, information to share. And then, we are, as humans, we are living bridges between heaven and earth. I mean, we really are that bridge. Um, and so we've developed a course, we call it Channeling Buddies, because doing this work with someone else or multiple people is really powerful. Most people have heard that, when two or more people come together, that's when miracles can happen. I mean, and so it is a very specific script that we have developed from our personal experience. Each of us have taken different courses. Her background is in counseling, in psychotherapy, but she's also done some other deep hypnosis work. And so we've kind of pulled together our most favorite kind of beneficial aspects from all of these different avenues that we've kind of been on, and created a really simple but beautiful and powerful script to help you connect with your higher self. And I think how we feel is, we know if everyone could learn, or even just more people could learn how to connect with their higher self, their divine light aspect of themselves that is never separated from source, that people would be living their fullest potential. And that is how you create heaven on earth. I mean, that really is how you create true harmony here, is when everyone is living their fullest potential. There's no reason to harm another person, because you know that your reality is created by your thoughts, by your actions. And when your actions and thoughts come from that place of divine light, you're creating your own, like, you know greatest potential of life. So that's kind of our goal, is just to get this work out there, because we want people connecting with themselves, um, with their highest aspect, of who they are. And so we're putting together it will be launched as an online kind of self-study course, and we will offer a private group that you could be part of, so you can connect with other people, share experiences that you're having, find a buddy if you don't have a buddy, because you don't need your buddy to live in the same town. I mean, you can do this work over Zoom, you can do it over Google Meets, FaceTime. There's a lot of different avenues. And then we will be kind of coalescing the course into a full day workshop that we will offer locally, hopefully within the next couple months. So it's really exciting. I'm super excited to put this together. And so, yeah.
Will we be able to find it on your website when it's all done?
Yes, I
Okay.
have right now. I have a little channeling buddies section. We will have channeling buddies will have its own website with the way of purchasing the online uh, course, and then also we'll be uploading different meditative meditation scripts and things like that. And what's really exciting is that within the work in the course, I also share different energy medicine yoga techniques that you can do for grounding, for strengthening your aura, for really that whole that pranic tube, that Shushumna channel. That's a very that is in the midline of the body that really connects heaven and earth, connects the yin and the yang energy. I have all sorts of little, very simple but powerful energetic techniques that you can do to get your body, your energy, your mind all together so that you can be the clearest channel that you can be for this work.
Love it. Love it. Well, keep me posted on when
I
that's all
will.
ready to go. And people can get more information on that through your language of light healing.com
Yep.
website. And for the listeners, I will post that link in the show notes below. And you can take a look at Meghan and definitely reach out for some remote work, right?
Yep, I do remote. I do distance healing. I can do the quantum hypnosis distantly through Zoom. I've done that before. Um, Even the shamanic journey stuff that I do, it can all be done distantly too. So you don't have to come see
Fabulous.
me in person.
Fabulous. Well, thank you so much for your time.
Yes, thank you.
And we'll chat again when your program is all put together and you
Sounds
can
good.
talk about it
Yeah,
again. Okay.
thank you
All
so
right.
much.
Thank you so much, Meghan. That's a wrap for today, folks. Thanks for spending the time with me. And don't forget to check the notifications below on my social media links, my YouTube channel with self-care and meditations, as well as my omshantihealing.com website where you can get info on spiritual coaching and my online courses. And as always, if you do enjoy my podcast, don't forget to subscribe or sponsor below. We'll talk to you soon. Have a beautiful rest of your week. Bye-bye.